2014 Year in Review. We start the year with marijuana becoming legal in Colorado.
Chaos, destruction, massive overdoses, zombies.
Actually, crime is down a significant percentage in Colorado and everything seems to be alright, And police are able to focus on violent crimes instead of going after people who are smoking pot and watching Seth Rogen movies. Then Janet Yellen becomes chair of the Federal Reserve. Congrats, Janet! The dollar has lost over 97% of its purchasing power since the Fed was created. So you probably can't do any worse. Just kidding, it doesn't really matter who's in charge because the whole institution is the problem. And then that plane went missing and your mom became a conspiracy theorist. And then Russia and Ukraine were beefing with each other and the US government was like, this has nothing to do with us, let's get involved. Then Lois Lerner from the IRS was being investigated for targeting groups because of their political views. And she was like, you see what had happened was the emails, they gone, they just poofed and the backup, it failed too. So, you know.
LOL, does anyone even believe me?
And then ISIS was the #1 problem. And Congress said, let's throw some money and some weapons at the problem. What could go wrong? And then Gamergate happened. And I felt like I couldn't really comment because I'm not much of a gamer. But I did laugh because I know so many dudes who play as girl characters on online games because people, gamers, are nicer to them that way. Then the situation in Ferguson happened, and despite the lack of facts and evidence to prove anything, everyone had a strong opinion on what exactly happened and why. And then everyone started dumping ice on their heads. In the summertime, often outside, putting ice-cold water on you in the summer. Such a challenge. Then legislation to audit the Fed passed the House, but Harry Reid, who was once super supportive of auditing the Fed, said, oh, never mind. I only care about transparency when it's politically convenient. Then Ebola was going to kill us all. People were calling for the government to shut down flights from an entire continent. If you didn't think that was a good idea, you were just naive about Ebola. Then elections came and everyone kind of just forgot about Ebola. I guess it wasn't going to kill us all anymore. Elections this year were pretty boring for the most part. Next. Then a scientist who landed a probe on a comet wore a tacky shirt, featuring ladies without a lot of clothes on. Some people were outraged and said this is why women aren't in science. Oh yeah, I was gonna be a rocket scientist, but no longer because those scientists, they have such bad fashion sense. Ungodly. Then the torture report was released, which contained information about prisoners being fed through their butts. Hypothermia, being forced to stand on broken limbs, mock executions. President Obama said the report was not consistent with our values as a nation. So is droning people without trial consistent with our values as a nation, Mr. President? Especially when those drones sometimes kill innocent bystanders. And oh yeah, don't forget that US citizen that was killed by a drone. Then the administration announced it would be normalizing relations with Cuba. Some people were upset because of Cuba's terrible human rights record, but no word yet on how they feel about the U.S. trading with China, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and other countries with terrible human rights records. And then Obama held a press conference because of a stoner comedy. See you next year!